Okay, so let's begin with Ezra and Nehemiah. When I learned Ezra and Nehemiah for the first time with my children, you see two interesting things in Ezra and Nehemiah, and also now we're learning Divrei Yamim, so also it appears in Divrei Yamim. First, you have many names and places in both Ezra and Nehemiah and Divrei Yamim. And you ask yourself, well, why is it so important to have all those names? Like, what do you care about someone who doesn't live now anymore? We don't even know how to relate ourselves to the person. My son just today was asking about a family tree, if we can build a family tree for ourselves. Or maybe we can build a family tree till David HaMelech. There's no way we can do it to build a family tree to David HaMelech. Or whoever lived, we don't know, whoever lived then. And Ezra and Nehemiah do bring the family trees. So that's a question, why is it there? So the first thing I noticed when we learned it, it seemed like as if the many things in Ezra and Nehemiah which aren't so relevant for us. Will come the question, why do we have in Ezra and Nehemiah things which aren't so relevant for us? The question also comes since the Gemara in Megillah says that through the hundreds of years from coming out of Egypt until the first exile, when there weren't any more Nevi'im, so there was 1,200,000 Nevi'im through all the years. And we have only 24 books, less than 50 Nevi'im written. And the Gemara says that only a Nevuah, which is needed for further generations, only that is written. So come the question, so why to write so many names, so many historical events, which seems like as if it's not needed? That's maybe first thing which struck my mind when I learned it. A second thing, which is exactly the opposite, is so many things there in Ezra and Nehemiah seems like as if you can take them from more or less our days, or let's say our last 100 years, last century, and have the same questions which arise, and they also dealt with it. So Ezra and Nehemiah have something which, for now, at least seems very not so connected to us. On the other hand, things which talk about the nation coming back to the land of Israel and what they have to deal with, and that has there. And then the last thing which I noticed when I learned Ezra and Nehemiah, and then we'll give a bit more of the historically thing about it. Some things which we don't understand so much without actually learning Tanakh. And the example I like to give very, very much is Purim. We all know Purim has 2 days. 1 day for all of the world, and one day, the Tvav Adar, for people living in, we call Jerusalem, but in cities that had walls from the time of Yeshua ben Nun. So the wall. And I always ask, especially when you live in Israel, when it's more relevant, why walls? Why from the times of Yeshua ben Nun? And only when I learned Ezra and Nehemiah, which the story of Ezra and Nehemiah happens more or less at the same time of Purim, how much the meaning of a wall, how much of the meaning of Yeshua ben Nun had to do in all coming back to Jerusalem. And then I realized that actually we do many things today. Tashlich, for example, Tashlich on Rosh Hashanah, which is somehow mentioned in Ezra and Nehemiah. Things we do today, which are influenced from people, from the Jews coming back 2,500 years ago to Jerusalem, to Israel, and it still influences us today. So these two books, we'll discuss it in a moment, are actually very, very relevant through maybe all the Jewish history, but especially in our days. That's before we go to Ezra and Nehemiah. I won't say it's the most relevant book from the Tanakh. I can't measure books from the Tanakh and say what's most relevant, but I think it's quite relevant to us. Can teach us a lot of things about what we do today. Many hilchatically things I learned from here, and many questions which we have. Hopefully, we can learn from the book here. So that's before we begin. Yeah.
But wasn't Ezra and Nehemiah long after Yeshua? I mean, Yeshua was back in Moshe's time.
Yeah, they were very, very much after Yeshua.
Oh, okay, I thought you said they were around the same time.
They're very much after Yeshua ben Nun, but we'll say that just in a sentence, they view themselves maybe repeating what Yehoshua did. And the same as maybe people from the beginning of Zionism came back to Israel, reviewed themselves as repeating what Ezra and Nehemiah did. So like the history continues. Okay, so first, maybe what Ezra and Nehemiah? What books are they? One book, two books. We always call it Ezra and Nehemiah. In the Talmud, it's considered as one book, only Ezra. While it seems like quite obviously that two people wrote them. When we count the 24 books of the Tanakh, so Ezra and Nehemiah counted only as one book, and then a few hundred years ago, they were separated, not sure by Christians or other people, but to two different books, because it's quite obvious that two people wrote them.
Well, is that true also of the other, like there's Malachim and Shmuel, Aleph and Beis, and Malachim, Aleph and Beis, weren't they also originally like one book?
Yeah, all of the prakim we have are Christian oriented. They divided them.
Right, the divisions.
Yeah. There was some sort of Masorah dividing prakim, although the way naturally to do it is by parashiyot. If you had a Ptucha and Stuma and parashiyot, so that's how these were divided. Also, until the time of Yonim, we used to have a cycle of 3 year cycle of reading the Torah. So you have, instead of having about 50-something parashiyot, we had 150 parashiyot. So it's much easier to refer to a specific period. You said in that parasha, in the middle of it, so it's easier to refer to it.
You can have your suit at the right time.
What?
Then you can have your suit at the right time if you're reading less.
Yeah, you're reading less. Yeah.
Could you get home earlier?
It's supposed to be in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah. But the question is how many Mishaberachs they have. That's the question.
How many
Mishaberachs they have.
That's it, yeah.
That's the main question. So Ezra and Nehemiah considered one book, and the Chazal say that since Nehemiah is somebody that talks badly about people being in before him, so he didn't have the zchut, the merit, to have a book named after himself, although it's written, the second half of Ezra, or Nehemiah, is written specifically about Nehemiah. So it's two people who lived almost at the same time. Ezra was a bit before Nehemiah, but they overlap. And look at them in Tanakh wise as one book. When we learn it's just easier to refer to them as two books, just because they're two separate things. Two different personalities. But first let's talk about the history. When I'm not sure how many Russian people came to here around 91, but Russia was closed for 70 years. There weren't any communists. Were communists there. There weren't any. Weren't allowed to learn Torah. There weren't religious people there. In Israel, from 91 onwards, many Russian people came to Israel, and still today you can see how far they are from Judaism, and that to be false. They weren't allowed to learn any Torah. They weren't allowed to learn anything. So naturally, they separated from Judaism, started to intermarry with other people, non-Jewish people, and the same thing more or less happened in the time of the exile. After the first exile, Nebuchadnezzar Melech Bavel leaves in Israel a few people, simple people. He left Gedaliah ben Achikam to be the leader. Gedaliah ben Achikam was murdered. That's why we have some Gedaliah. And most of the people went to Egypt, and they fled to Egypt. Some people stayed in Israel. Maybe the people called Amei Haaretz, or Amei Haaretzot, which are mentioned through Ezra. So you have Jewish people who lived here without any leadership, without any spiritual leadership, without anyone to teach them Torah. And naturally, they slowly started moving further from Judaism. Maybe they didn't keep so many mitzvot. Maybe they did intermarriage with other people. Maybe they didn't have also such a good connection or relation between the Jewish nation in Babel, since it's quite far away. There's no FaceTime. Yeah. If you want a picture every day,
you don't get. If you want a picture every day, you have to have FaceTime.
Yeah. You can't have a picture every day when you're so far, and also it's probably the poor people living in Israel without any leadership. So naturally, they moved away from Judaism. So one of the problems when the people coming back to Israel, 42,000 people coming back to Israel had is, one second, we have here Jews, which aren't so Jews. What do you do with them? So that's the first problem they have. What to do with Judaism? What do you do with Judaism? What will be Judaism from now on? That's the first problem, the inner problem. And that problem actually has two problems. The first problem is called the Jewish wise. Who teach Torah, the Torah wise, how to bring Torah to all of these people. The second problem, it also causes tension between, as soon as you have two Jews, and don't agree exactly on the same thing. So Jews tend to fight, as we know still today. And probably also that's what happened there. How this is also fractions between them. And that's the second problem got to do with that problem of Amei being in Israel and the answer connected to Judaism. You have another problem of people around you. All the nations around, and the Edomim and other people aren't so happy about the Jews coming back and building their own state in the place for tens of years has been not the Jews, but it belongs to everyone who wants, can just come and take and steal. And now all of a sudden you have the Jews coming, and they might establish a state, and all of a sudden means they'll have an army and they'll protect themselves, and you won't be able to do whatever you want to do. And they also realize that building a temple means also usually a state around it. It's not just a temple, there's also people who are living there and protecting it. So a temple connects to a state, connects to an army. So you have many problems from out of Jerusalem or out of the Jewish nation. So that's the second problem they have. And the third problem is it's very hard to bring Jews to Israel. Even today, even when Israel is a strong state, it's very hard to bring Jews to Israel, since everyone has been living there for tens of years. They know the language, they have children there, they have education there, they have all the business there, and especially in those days you can't work on FaceTime and work from one place and your office is hundreds of miles away. You have to be there, the fields, and you can't just leave everything, or it's hard to leave everything and go. So that's the third problem of what do we do when, who wants to at all to come and leave Israel and go to Jerusalem, who is destroyed. We'll see when we learn Nehemiah. Nehemiah puts a lot of effort to build a wall around Jerusalem. He understands that will protect the city. He finishes the wall, so he has now a city. Oops, we have a problem. No one lives in Jerusalem, it's empty. We have an empty city. So he has an idea, he takes a meiser. A tenth of the people are supposed to go and live in Jerusalem.
They will come.
No, that's what they decided. All the people living in Israel, a tenth of them were moved to Jerusalem. So, but you can see it's a problem that they had to deal with. So that's three problems. Another problem is it's always a state under a bigger state, under the Persians, under the Parsim. Iran today. Iran is now in. So then you have a king like Koresh who allows the Jews to go to Israel and maybe gives them also money and other things. On the other hand, you have the king can change, and you have a king called Artaxerxes. It's a hard name to pronounce. Who is he exactly? Question. Hopefully we'll learn more when we get to it. Is he Achashverosh? Is he the son of Achashverosh? Is he Jewish? If he's the son of Achashverosh and Esther, was he Jewish? Good question. People like to ask. Was there a Jewish king there somewhere there which let the Jews, or didn't let the Jews to go and build the temple? So that is one of the fourth problem is how to deal with the kingdom, with the Persian kingdom, who rules everyone, and so all those four things together cause quite a few problems that they come to deal with. And now we come to Ezra and Nehemiah. Going to the land of Israel didn't come at once. It came in stages, as today also. It started in stages. Slowly people came. We have Zerubbabel and who came the first Aliyah, and then Nehemiah brings with him people. But if we focus on Ezra and Nehemiah, Ezra was in Israel a bit before Nehemiah. Ezra is a person who focuses mainly on the religious side, mainly on the Torah side. He leaves all the politics and all the maybe how to bring people, how to protect themselves to the other people, to Zerubbabel and Ishvav and other people. So Ezra focuses mainly on the how to build a spiritual base of the nation. As we said, the Amei Aratzot were there, weren't so connected to Judaism after being so many years far away. People coming with Ezra also many times were not sure how much knowledgeable they were. The poor people who will come to a new land, people who have probably nothing to lose where they are. So the poor people come, how to get Levim, people who aren't so connected in any case to the wealth and put them to the center of the life in Babel will come to Israel. Maybe they also weren't so connected to Torah. So Ezra focuses mainly on renewing the Torah life, and maybe better to define, renewing the identity of a Jew. But his focus is, what is a Jew? What is a Jew? And for that we have two aspects, which we see them also today very, very much. First, keeping Torah, mitzvah, learning Torah. Being a Jew means also what we know, our knowledge, our life, our center, everything we do is being Jewish. So he teaches Torah, Chazal say, Ezra is such a great tzaddik. The Torah should have been, or could have been given by Ezra, just that Moshe Rabbeinu happened to be before Ezra, quite a few years before Ezra. But Ezra does renew the Torah. He does re-give, let's say, the Torah. He changes the writing, or brings back the original writing, but he changes the writing to the writing we have today, which is called Ktav Ashuri. Not sure if this Tanakh has, probably not. But next time, I'll bring the
Ivri.
The Ktav Ivri, and I'll bring an example of it, how the original writing looked like, and Ezra changes it.
The Gemara debates that.
Yeah, in Megillah.
And then Sanhedrin also talks about it. What was the original writing? Was it Ivri or was it Ashura? Right.
Yeah. So, but in any case, he or makes a new writing or renews an old writing which was forgotten for some reason, and he brings it back. So Ezra focuses on the spiritual way, on learning, teaching Torah, teaching mitzvot. And another thing which is very, very important, if there's intermarriage, and Ezra is also a Kohen, and you need Kohanim for the temple, so very, very important is to know who is actually Jewish by mother, and from which tribe did they come. Can he work in the temple? Can he get Maaser Rishon, Sheni, everyone can eat. Can he work? Who is this person coming here? So Ezra also did the yichus of the trying to see who the yichus comes from Ezra.
This is only after 70 years of exile.
Yeah, that's only after 70 years.
100 years of exile.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
So he went into Amazon. He went into Ancestry.com.
Not to know after only 2 generations is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So 70 years, some of the exile started a bit beforehand because the exile also took part in stages. But yeah, just after a few tens of years of exile, so people forgot who they are and got married. So Ezra tries very much to do ichus and to family trees, to build family trees, who belongs to who belongs to where, who's the Kohen, who's the Levi, and to re-establish maybe not the tribes, since not all the tribes are there. It's Yehuda, Binyamin, and a few other families from other tribes that maybe stayed. Since from the times of Rechavam and Yerovam, the son of King Solomon, the nation divided into 2 kingdoms. We had the kingdom of Yehuda and the kingdom of Israel, which Israel has most of the tribes. They went to exile quite a few tens of years before destroying the temple. And where they are today, it's a good question. Actually, being in Israel, you see many times the Ethiopians. Are the Ethiopians Jewish or not? So some claim they're Jewish people, and they are from the tribe of Dan. I used to live in Beit El for quite a few years, and we had quite a few families called Bnei Menashe. they came from around India, and they are considered to be from Menashe. Yeah, so all sorts of questions: who are the tribes and where who's from? But anyway, so Ezra has a mission to try and place each one to its place, to also to renew maybe the mishmarot of the way the Kohanim used to work in the temple. So he tries to renew also that. So that's his mission. So Ezra focuses mainly on Judaism. Nehemiah, on the other hand, is more of a practical person, and he focuses also on Judaism, also on keeping Shabbat. The first maybe Chumrah, or the first Gzera of Siyag Torah is done, or we know at least, is done by Nehemiah. We'll see towards the end of the book, but more at the same time, a few tens of years afterwards, more at the same time, we learned the first Mishnah, or the first Mishnah of Masechet Avot was taught. Moshe קיבל תורה מסיני, ומסרה ליהושע, ויהושע לזקנים וזקנים לנביאים, ונביאים מסרו על אנשי כנסת הגדולה. So Moshe received Torah from Sinai, he gave it to the prophets, the older people, and then they gave it to pass the Torah on to Anshei Knesset HaGedolah, which was just more at the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, towards the end of their life. And that's, again, they have to rebuild the Torah after only 70 years. Yeah, they have to rebuild everything. And I remember as a child seeing it in Israel with the Russian people coming to Israel. So I could see it in my eyes how only 70 years.
Only 70 years.
Just erased so much out of the people. And at Anshei Knesset HaGedolah, one of the three things they say is to do a siyag, to do a fence to the Torah. And maybe one of the earlier fences for the Torah we see in Nehemiah. People used to bring all the market to Jerusalem on Shabbat. And Ezra and Nehemiah, didn't want them to work on Shabbat. So they came, and before Shabbat, they came from out of Jerusalem, like we have all the markets in all the small towns are out of the big town. And we'll see it later, but just to see what he had to deal with. So he locks the gates before Shabbat. The gate is locked before Shabbat. In some places in Israel, like Bnei Brak, for example, so the roads are closed on Shabbat. So he locks the gates before Shabbat. Now, obviously, he built the wall, so he also has the keys to the gates. Yeah. By the way, if you go to Jerusalem, we get to it later. But if you go to Jerusalem, I really recommend to go to Ir David, the city of David, and you can see still the wall, which probably Nehemiah built. So it's amazing. And when we get to it, I'll tell you something about it. We can recognize a part of the wall where you can see the Tanakh in your eyes. But anyway, so he locks the gates, and the people come from the market, and they are locked out of Jerusalem. And he tells them, "Be careful. If you'll do it again, I'll punish you badly." And from then, they didn't come on anymore on Shabbat. So you can see Nehemiah. He's practical. He's very practical. He tried to build fences for the Torah, to keep the Torah. In this case, actually, it was an actual fence or gate. Yeah. Walls to protect the Torah. He's very practical in building the walls. He's practical in moving himself, punishing people. Ezra is more a person who davens, who prays, who will maybe pull his hair from being sad, and maybe other people will see it and will be influenced by him. Nehemiah is a person who will punish people who won't listen to him. And his mission, you can say, is to establish also Torah life, but also life of a state. You can't just, he understands that in a world like they were, or in a world like everyone is, you can't just have a religion without a state. You have to have also a state. And he works he works very hard to build a state, to build his power in front of the Jewish people, in front of the non-Jewish people, and so he works harder, and he uses a force of a king. So he's not really a king.
Right. I was going to ask, what gave them their authority?
So that's great.
Prophet.
Yeah. No, actually, he's not a prophet.
He's not
a prophet. He's more Ruach HaKodesh, he's not a prophet. What gave him his authority? And thank you for the question. So he gets his authority from the king of Paras.
Aha.
Okay, so he gets authority from him, And that's maybe a difference between Ezra and Nehemiah. When Ezra comes to the land of Israel, so he just comes without any guard, without any soldiers guarding him. Nehemiah, when he comes to the land of Israel, so he asks the king to give him soldiers for the way. He comes more of not a king, but someone who has a pecha. It's called a pecha in pachot, pecha. In Ezra and Nehemiah, he comes, I'm not sure what's the best word, of a governor maybe. He's a governor of the big Persian Empire. So, and he comes with the letter from the king. I'm the governor, that's what I'm allowed to do, and everyone can see it, and be careful, I'll use my power if you won't let me to do those things. So, that's Nehemiah, that's his challenge. He comes with a piece of power, and that's the way he challenges building the state, then to be the state of Israel, or still not a state, into a small state, part of the big empire. What else before we go into it? We talked a bit about the interproblems, intermarriage, differences between rich people and poor people. That's a problem which both Ezra and Nehemiah try to attack and try to solve. And Nehemiah, as Nehemiah also asks people to maybe demands the rich people to behave nicer to the poor people. So Nehemiah also tries to solve the problem, the inner problems in there. And that's maybe not in a nutshell, because for 20 minutes, 25 minutes we've been talking about the where they were and what challenges they had. And before we go into it, we can understand also why and how that's so relevant for us, because also today, unfortunately, we have intermarriage. Also today, we have problems of many Jews not knowing about Judaism. It causes also arguments, a bit more than arguments, inside the Jewish nation. We have also problems of dealing with other nations. We have a question of, although the state of Israel has its own state, and then when all the world is like a small village or small town, and such, all the internet around and Facebook. So we still have to make sure, think what this country thinks and what this country thinks. So also many things of Ezra and Nehemiah, the way that they thought, also affects us today. And as I said, even some sort of minhagim and gzerot, which still today keeps all of the gzerot of Chazal, who started from Nehemiah. Purim started from Nehemiah, Tashlich started from Nehemiah. So that's the generally question that we all see. Before we go, so I'm happy to hear what interests you before we learn those.
Did Ezra know Mordechai? Are they that close together?
That close together, yeah.
That Ezra and Mordechai knew each other? Was Ezra part, like, there's a thing that Mordechai was part of the Sanhedrin.
Yeah.
Was Ezra also part of that originally?
Well,
do we know?
Ezra and Mordechai should know each other. I'm not sure where I saw if it's in Ezra and Nehemiah. It's been a bit of time since I learned it. Mordechai was in Israel, and then he went back. So
we have a picture.
I'm gonna send this to you. You can put in the newsletter.
Okay, that's great.
It's
okay.
good idea. It's good publicity.
Yeah. So that's. But next week there won't be a shiur, right? Only
right,
the week
2
after.
weeks.
Only 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks we start up. Yeah, because we have to.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not getting my picture every day, so I have to go see the babies. What?
Oh, you picture the baby
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
I thought you were making fun of me.
No.
Okay.
So take a
No.
Yeah. So that's also an interesting question. Well, more when we learn Ezra, we'll go into it maybe and question it. How does Purim fit in the story of Ezra and Nehemiah? Because it happened more or less in the same time, and they probably met Mordechai also. Actually, Mordechai is mentioned. Sorry, he is mentioned in, if I remember correctly, both Ezra and Nehemiah. I don't remember the exact pasuk. He's mentioned both of them, and it does happen at the same time. Since again, the question when we get to the names, we'll try to understand more who each one is. But is Achashverosh mentioned in Ezra and Nehemiah? Probably yes. Maybe in a different name or his son. So it's there.
Yeah. Does Ezra and Nehemiah know? They know each other. They're
Yeah, Ezra and Nehemiah know each other.
They know each
overlap.
other.
Yeah, they overlap. So they overlap. There is a questioning of who is each person. Even Ezra and Nehemiah we know, but even this. So Mordechai is mentioned for sure. I found it just looking at that. But we have Sheshbatzar and Zerubbabel, two leaders who came and led, maybe going back to Israel. Are they the same person or not the same person? Sometimes the Gemara and many other people say that person had a few names, so actually it's the same person. So maybe Sheshbatzar and Zerubbabel are the same people, same person. Maybe they are separate, two different people. We don't know. It's an argument between the commentaries. But yeah, Mordechai is here. Let's just read the pasuk. פסוק, פרק ב' ואלה בני המדינה העולים משבע הגולה, this is the people coming from the exile, and I'm skipping a bit, אשר באו, that they came with, זרובבל, ישוע, נחמיה, שריה, רעליה, מרדכי, בלשן, okay, so Mordechai is mentioned in Ezra and Nehemiah. Is it the same one? Probably yes. I think Chazal also said he went to Israel and he came back. So Mordechai was there, and the stories actually do overlap. It's interesting that we usually more know a bit about Purim and less a bit about what happened then in Israel. Another maybe very relevant question. I'm not sure here if people say Hallel on Yom HaAtzmaut or no. So in Israel, every Yom HaAtzmaut there's always an argument. You see Hallel on Yom HaAtzmaut, you don't see Hallel on Yom HaAtzmaut. And people say, okay, in Purim, we don't see Hallel Yom HaAtzmaut, and the Gemara in Megillah brings three reasons. One of the reasons is where it's in Chutz La'aretz, the miracles in Chutz La'aretz wasn't in Israel. So one of the reasons was the Megillah is like reading the Hallel, like things. So, and one of the reasons is we're still the slaves of Achashverosh. We're still the slaves of Achashverosh. And then comes the question today, when we have the state of Israel, is it the same as Purim or not? Reading Ezra and Nehemiah shows you for sure that it's completely different. They were still the slaves of Achashverosh, they were still dependent on Achashverosh. Ezra and Nehemiah have to show all the time the letter they got from the king. They can't do anything they can't do big things on their own. They don't have their own independence. Even leaving to go to Israel, they have to get special permission. So we can see there's a great difference between them. And so that's also one of the relevance. Learning Ezra and Nehemiah is how to react to all the state of Israel today. And we can see very many things are similar, coming slowly. Not everyone is religious, and many things which are very different, just of the understanding how independent we are today compared to what they had on the older times.
Square.
Yeah.